Hello, and my name is CJ, and I'm here to talk to you everything there is about sliders. And this is the Sliders Review. And today, I'm here to talk to you about Rembrandt the Crying Man Brown, or known as Remy by his friends. Rembrandt was played by Siobhan Derricks, and he is the only cast member to last all 5 seasons. Rembrandt was a popular singer back in the 70s or the 80s. He was with the band called the Spinning Tops, but because he felt that he could make it better solo, he decided to quit the Spinning Tops, and his career kind of dwindled. When we see Rembrandt in the first season in the 90s, we see him trying to make a comeback. While he is supposed to sing the national anthem at the baseball game, he is unaware as he is driving his car that the sliding vortex has left Quinn's basement into the road, and him and his Cadillac get sucked in. As they are now on the ice world and a weather catastrophe is happening, Quinn then disobeys the rules of sliding and activates the vortex early. This causes him to slide at random. And because of this, it causes Rembrandt to have very much disdain towards Quinn. He felt that Quinn is just some young guy who didn't know much about something he built and endangered the lives of him and the other people. And we see this guilt trip throughout the entire first season and in a couple of other seasons too. So throughout the first season, we always see this love-hate relationship between him and Quinn. Because of that, he actually nicknames Quinn Cue Ball. He refers to Wade as girl because Wade is so much younger than he is, and those two seem to bicker quite on and off throughout the first season, mainly because she feels that he has too much of an ego and he's all about himself, which in the first season he kind of was. And he really doesn't have so much interaction with that of the professor. Although Rembrandt is very selfish and greedy throughout the first season, we see that he actually does have a religious side to him. The Rembrandt character himself is very much different from that of the Sliders. He is somewhat greedy and selfish, and he's not really a team player. In the first season, sliding actually scares him to the point that whenever the Sliders are in trouble, he shows more fear than anybody else. However, he is an extremely funny man. And say he is greedy and selfish, he only sometimes thinks about himself and money. And when the other Sliders are in danger and trying to save not only themselves but the entire world, we see him off by himself partying or having some kind of sexual liaison with a woman. And he constantly does this throughout the first season. However, even though he hates the idea of sliding and never returning home so he's famous, he does end up on some worlds that he actually quite enjoys. There are some worlds in which he finds his past lovers from his world and he tries to rekindle with. But in one world, the king is back, that is probably Rembrandt's favorite world. And it's because on that world, he was actually a successful singer. His double is presumed dead, and Rembrandt decides to take on his life. As Rembrandt is basking in glory and fame, one of the former members of Spinning Tops kidnaps Rembrandt. After his friends save Rembrandt, Rembrandt is given a proposal of that of a $1 million contract record deal. So he decides to leave the Sliders and stay on that world and become extremely famous. However, his double is actually not really dead and just fakes his life. So when the double finds out that he can make a comeback himself and make over $1 million a song, he decides to resurrect his career and sends our Rembrandt back to sliding with the Sliders. In the episode Last Days, we see that the world in which the Sliders slide onto is about to be destroyed by an asteroid, as other 3 Sliders are trying to prevent this meteor from happening and slide off the world because their timer hits 0 after the asteroid hits. Rembrandt is out partying in the streets with a bunch of strangers. Because of this, and because he's not really a team member and he's always off doing his own thing, he really wasn't so much a fan favorite throughout the first season. In the second season, Rembrandt is probably the most changed person of all. He's no longer greedy or selfish, and he no longer wanders off by himself. If he does wander off, he'll take one of the other Sliders with him, mostly the professor. He is now a full team member, and he is now starting to bond with that of Quinn. And even though he no longer blames Quinn for what happened, that guilt is probably still within him, but he doesn't express it. And now we no longer see Rembrandt pussyfooting around with women anymore. He still likes women and he'll still mingle with a few, but he no longer deserts his team in order to have a good time. This is a good thing because now he is starting to be a likable character for fans. Rembrandt in the third season, we start to see he's becoming even more mature than he did in the second season. He becomes a father in the episode The Prince of Slides, in which he gives birth to the male heir who is supposed to become king as he grows up. We see him become the father figure of a young boy named Malcolm in the Exodus. Also, we start to see that Rembrandt is now starting to develop feelings for Wade. His feelings have been progressing, I'm assuming, since the second season. And he actually reveals this while he's under a spell in the episode Dragon Slide. She, at first, is kind of like, I don't like you like that, we're just friends. But then as she starts to hear why exactly he cares for her, we start to see her open up a little bit and start to fall for him. And because of this, those two are always paired together in certain episodes. After Rembrandt finds out that the professor is dying and that Quinn knew about it the whole time in the internal body, he is upset at the fact the professor will keep this information from him and that the professor doesn't see both him and Quinn as equal. Rembrandt is starting to feel as though Quinn is starting to become selfish, and he is starting to put other people before the Sliders. One episode in which we see this happen is Slither. And in Slither, Quinn is desperately trying to help a woman, but he doesn't know this woman is crooked. And Quinn is so devoted in helping this woman because he's in love with her, that way he is willing to leave both Wade and Maggie on that earth to help this woman slide to a new earth, then slide back to the earth in which Wade and Maggie are on. Rembrandt convinces him not to do this because Rembrandt says, there's no telling what might happen when we get to the other world or what might happen to the timer. Another huge argument in which we see that Quinn and Rembrandt have is in the two-part episode, The Exodus. In the second part, after Quinn discovers the coordinates for Earth Prime, the other Sliders later on find out. When both Wade and Rembrandt want to hurry and slide early, Quinn tells them, we made a promise to these people on this Earth to help them before their Earth is destroyed by the pole stars. Rembrandt goes back into whole season 1 mode of blaming Quinn for putting everybody's lives in danger in the first place by creating sliding. So Rembrandt lays on the guilt trip on Quinn big time. And then Wade later on joins in on that guilt trip. But Quinn is very adamant about trying to help these people, but more so he wants to help out Maggie Beckett. And Maggie Beckett is his new love interest. And throughout the third season, we constantly see this bickering both Wade and Rembrandt have towards Quinn, because Quinn isn't so much concerned about thinking about his former teammates, he's pretty much concerned about getting up Maggie's skirt. The last episode, The Slide of Paradise, at the very end of the episode, Quinn pushes both Wade and Remy into the vortex that leads back to Earth Prime. A terrible catastrophe happens to Rembrandt as we approach that the 4th year and 4th season. After both him and Wade slid to that of Earth Prime, we soon discover that their world was taken over by the Cro-Mags. Wade was shipped off into a breeder's camp, and Rembrandt was sent off to a death camp. While in that prison camp, the Cro-Mags tortured him to the brink of death. They tortured him so bad that when both Maggie and Quinn go to rescue him, he believes in fact that they are not real and in fact that they are a Cro-Mag hallucination. Throughout this entire season, Rembrandt's state of mind is extremely fragile. It's so fragile that it could shatter like glass. In the episode Genesis, he is very much in a fetal position, both in body and in mind. He's terrified and tormented with the pain of losing all his friends and everybody on the world, and know that soon he is about to die. It takes the compassion and friendship and love of that of both Maggie and Quinn to help him back on his path. While his mind is healing, he is left scarred and damaged to the point where he turns into a very dark and hateful man towards the Cro-Mags. Because of this, every time he sees a Cro-Mag, he jumps in with his gut instead of his brain. This causes him and his friends to be captured on several occasions. In the episode Fly Cage, once Rembrandt is captured, it is revealed when the Cro-Mag starts to go inside his mind, they discover they placed a hypnotic suggestion in his brain to when he re-finds Quinn, he is supposed to kill him. His relationship with Quinn, however, has grown to the point as to where they're literally just like brothers. They constantly lean on each other for moral support, and they always have each other's back. They will even die for one another. His relationship with Maggie is still the same as it was in that of season 3, but he has come to like her more, and because of this, they now have a stronger bond in which they didn't necessarily have in the third season when they didn't quite get along. His relationship with Colin Mallory, Rembrandt sees him as kind of the person he can corrupt, but in a good way. He teaches him all kinds of slang and modern ways of living, and how to be a ladies' man. In the episode Asylum, in which Quinn is injured, Rembrandt finds a very beautiful doctor in which he falls head over heels for. Because of this, it causes him to heal more than he could before due to the Cro-Mags. However, he is saddened to find out that this doctor allied herself with the Cro-Mags and helped fight against the humans, and because of this, he could no longer love her or forgive her. In the episode The Dying Field, Rembrandt still has a grudge against the Cro-Mags. On that world, we see that the Cro-Mags have abducted several humans from other parallel worlds and are now hunting them. As Rembrandt is trying to fend off his friends and the other humans, he is shot with one of the Cro-Mag weapons. Their weapons are so highly advanced that his wound does not close itself and heal. As he's on the brink of death, a female Humag decides to save his life with the Cro-Mag healing technique. She decides to help him even though she knows that he hates her for what she is. This causes him to have a revelation to the sense of maybe not all Cro-Mags are evil, or at least the Humags are not, and that some of them do have compassion in their hearts. When we get to the 5th season, Rembrandt is the only surviving slider left. He still has Maggie. In this season, I'm not really too sure of what his personality is like or what perils he faces, because like I stated in other videos, I've never seen the 5th season except for the Unstuck Man. In the last episode of the 5th season, entitled The Shear, it leaves off on a cliffhanger in which a man with psychic abilities has been tracking the sliders, I guess, ever since their very first slide. Once again, stupid. And what's even more dumb is that, okay, the guy playing this psychic, he also appeared in the 4th season. And in the 4th season, he plays a character named Chandler, which is the person responsible for the Chandler hotels on which they stay in. But in the 5th season, his name isn't Chandler, and he isn't the double of the guy of the 4th season, but yet he's played by the same actor. Well, in that episode, the sliders are taken captive once again. And in that episode also, sliding is a religion, Scientology as they call it. And the Egyptian timer is actually destroyed now. Throughout the course of the episode, the psychic man tells them if they slide again, they will die. He also tells them that he has a virus that's going to kill the Cro-Mags. As they're trying to get these other people's sliding technology to work, Diana states that only one person can slide. So Rembrandt decides to inject himself with the virus, and then he says his goodbyes, and then he slides back to Earth Prime. We don't know if he succeeds, we don't know if he fails, because the show was so terrible, Sci-Fi decided to just to cancel it. Well folks, there you go, the rundown on Rembrandt the Crime Man Brown. I'll talk to you later. Bye.